Hey, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Accidental Isolation, where I like to bring on a guest to speak about a moment in their life where they may have felt isolated, whether that be mentally, physically, or emotionally. Today we have Cyanca, the beautiful, soulful voice. All right, thank you again for coming on. How you doing?
I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm doing good. Thank you so much. I love getting all types of people on the show, and I love getting musicians because they really have just that creative brain. Like they have something that some people are missing, I believe, and it's awesome to hear their stories of isolation because oftentimes it is unique. So I'm ready to dive into it and get to know a little bit more about you, and hopefully I can be able to learn something, and the people here will be able to learn something about your story.
Right, absolutely.
Yes, yes. So to begin, I always like to let the viewers and the listeners and the audience get to know a little bit more about you. So who you are, where you're from, what you do, why you do, anything you want to give the audience, just so they know who Cyanca is to begin.
Yeah, I am originally from Smithfield, North Carolina. It's a really small town in North Carolina. I was raised by my grandparents along with my father. Grew up in a very Baptist church, was in church 6 days out the week. So I've been into music since I was a child, by default. So I got introduced to music through church. I grew up in a family church, and I found myself looking at my cousin playing the organ. I wasn't paying attention to the pastor. And I was like,
I want to do what he's doing.
yeah, to the point where after service, I'm finding myself going up there, on the pulpit. And of course, I will always get sat down like, yeah, the pulpit. You ain't supposed to be in the pulpit.
Yeah.
Especially as a black woman, that wasn't popular to see a black woman wanting to be interested in playing, instruments and things of that nature. You're supposed to be in a dress, and it's not ladylike to be on the drums with a dress.
Yeah.
But I was just so adamant about that until my grandmother, she finally brought me musical instruments along with my father. And ever since then, I just been so in love with music. And I've been doing it. I did it in high school. I majored in music. And it's just a huge part of me. But the other big part of me is I'm just a country girl.
Yeah.
I love
Smithfield. Where is that at? I know it's in North Carolina, but like, what part is where is Smithfield at?
It's about 30 minutes from Raleigh.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm not from North Carolina, so honestly, that didn't help me much. But
Where are you from?
I'm from South Carolina, so like I'm from
Okay.
a very small part of South Carolina too. So my family's from King Street and Trio and Salters. So
Okay.
like we have houses one every mile, one every half, like mile and a half, right?
Same.
We're like 20, 30 minutes away from Conway, which
Okay.
if you know of Coastal Carolina, the college, that's where that's at. And it's like that's in between like Myrtle Beach, Charleston area. So
Right.
like I'm from the country as well. I grew up in Columbia, so like it's a little city, but nothing like Charlotte or nothing, so nothing like this.
Right.
But yeah, country girl and the music.
Oh, I play sports too. Like, I'm a big sports fan.
What kind of sports?
I did track. I did basketball, volleyball. I was the drum captain of the marching band. I was senior class president. I was working at Nike all while doing that.
So you did it all.
I did it all.
So
I was
like
never home.
What instrument were you drawn to most? I know you said the organ was the first thing you kind of seen in church, and then you kind of looked at that, and then you saw the drums and music. Music is so wide. So what was
Right.
something that was drawn to you in the early stages?
Drums for
Drums
sure.
most.
Yeah, I wanted to play drums first. That was the first thing that my parents bought me
drum
for
kit.
Christmas. Yeah, all white drum set. It's nice.
How was it the second day? Because the first day they happy you get to play on the drums, but then the second and third day is 11 o'clock at night and you still beating on the drums.
Now, I don't have like a fond memory of it,
Uh-huh.
but I do know that I used to play it a lot.
Okay.
But then me and my family went through a house fire, and I lost everything. So, yeah.
You had to get some new ones. So before the show, and the reason we're here is we spoke about the meaning of what accidental isolation is. So let's go ahead and dive into a moment in your life where you may have been isolated, whether it be mentally, physically, or emotionally. And let's dive into that. And it can be moments. Because like we spoke when we were speaking with Travis, it's like some people have a moment and they learn from it, but that doesn't mean you're perfect now, right? Some people have really big epiphany moments where this has changed the trajectory of their life, and then some people have many isolations where they're up and they're down because that's just the ebb and flow of life. So anything could be talked about, and whatever you feel is impactful to your life.
Yeah, it's a lot of times I isolated.
Oh, yeah.
I still do.
Uh-huh.
But I found myself of learning to be, if I isolate, it's for a healthy reason and not like a running away or toxic reason.
Yeah.
I think the first real isolation is when I went to college.
Okay.
And that was the first time that I could be open with my sexuality. Growing up in the church, I was living 2 different lifestyles for a long time.
Yeah.
Like a very long time. So getting to college, seeing different people, many cultures, people from all over the world, being themselves, I was like, all right, I'm going to be myself. Yeah. But I found myself isolating myself from my family. Like, because I'm like, I can't really be myself.
Around you.
Around y'all. So I'm going to isolate. So they were begging me to come back home. Like, when you coming back home? And I'm like, I don't know. No, never. Yeah. It was just like, it was an avoidance thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was my real experience, and I think what helped me to get through that is my friends and community. I was even scared to tell people that I was hanging out with in college that, I was into women. Until one day, one of my friends, and she was like, "What's going on with you?" And I was like, "I'm just having a rough day." I think I was just battling it. And she sat me down. She was like, "Yo, you can tell me anything." Like, and I just told her. She was like, "Yo, we knew already. Like, you could have just been real with us. Like, we love you." Like, I was like, "Man, okay, that's my first experience of somebody loving me for who I am."
For you, yeah.
So that kind of helped me to muster up to come out and be freely with my family, and it kind of worked out.
And it could be tough, like. We are black, and everyone in here, is black or some descent black, right? So we can all relate and like resonate with how it is to, one, be black, and then 2, grow up in a church, right? You know how black people is with their church, and 3, being from a small town, right? The biggest thing I always preach to people is exposure equals expansion, right? Like you said, when you were from the small country town, I'm sure there were people that battled with their sexuality there too, but because of where you're from, the atmospheres there are, like they are also afraid to be who they are, or at least be who they are openly, right? So being able to go to university and go to college, you're exposed to so much more, and that's what a lot of people, or that's what I was missing a lot in my life as well, to like not even know what there is out there, like how to be myself.
Right.
So I want to start with first, what school did you go to, right?
I went to UNC Greensboro.
Okay, UNCG, and then getting on campus. Now you're in this new environment, so that in and of itself can be somewhat, of isolation, because it's like, it's different from the norm, right? Greensboro is not like the biggest city, so it's not a huge difference, but it's still different than where you're from. Getting on this campus, and you're starting to see these people who are being who they are. Now let's dive into like these day-to-day moments of like seeing these people, understanding these people, and now realizing that, hey, I can be these people and be myself. Let's dive into a little bit of that. So like getting on campus and like your first experience of like seeing people be themselves, like how did that make you feel, or what did that look like?
My first experience was joining a choir.
Okay.
Ironically, I joined the gospel choir, and the lead director, he was gay. I'm just being real. And he was. And he was real about it. Like, I was like, oh. But he was the most talented person I ever met. And that was my first experience. It was the UNCG was predominantly white, and it was like a 15-20% black population compared to A&T down the street. So that was my safe haven going to choirs. Like, that's familiar. I'm come from church, so I'm like, okay,
black,
he was black too.
Okay.
Everybody in the choir was basically black.
Church choir.
So that was my first experience. It was joining the choir and meeting all types of people, and we got so close and so tight. It was amazing.
And how was that, seeing be in this environment, like going to something that's comfortable to you, which is the choir? This is something that feels like home, especially when you go to a school that's prominent white. I have one of my classmates back there, schoolmates. I went to a small private Christian school in the middle of nowhere, Greenville. The only black people is athletes, right? So like I can understand how it feels to want to feel like home. So what do? Most of us do. We hang out with the athletes. We hang out with the people who are like us and allow us to feel comfortable in a space that's so uncomfortable to us.
Right.
So being able to go to this choir and seeing this gay man lead this proudly and being of the church, how did that make you feel? And like, how was that able to like muster in you to become like who you are and be able to be open? Like, how was that? What did that feel like? Like seeing this man here.
Fulfilling.
Mm-hmm.
Very fulfilling. It made me feel powerful.
Mm-hmm.
It made me confident. And not to be, I was very shy because again, like I'm like, oh, I trust you.
I don't know if I could be open.
So
with you.
yeah, it was fulfilling.
Yeah.
It was a breath of fresh air.
And it allowed you to just open your chest up and just really be.
Yeah.
And was that process of like becoming who you are, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because you already are who you are. So I'm not even gonna say becoming who you are, because you are who you are. Mm-hmm. The biggest thing with this is taking that mask off. Because you knew who you were when you were back home. Like, I know this, but it's like, because of the environment I'm in, I don't really want to take this mask off and show these people because I'm afraid maybe of their judgment. I'm afraid of how they'll treat me. How was the process of taking that mask off? Was it something instant? Like, oh, I see him, you in the church, you black, and you open? Oh, bet, boom. Like, was it a rip-off? Was it like something that you kind of had to ease into? Like, how was these processes? And you also said, like, you began to get close with the students that was in the choir. How was that process of taking that mask off?
I think it really started with clothes.
Okay. The fashion you were. You weren't wearing the dresses that they made you wear at church,
like I could not. I grew up in a very big house, right?
Okay.
4 stories. My grandparents, they had a little money. My grandfather was an architect.
Okay, yeah.
My grandmother never worked anywhere. She didn't have to. 50 acres land. So there was a room right across from my room. It was a guest room. In that closet was dresses, like hundreds of dresses. My grandmother just kept freaking buying. I'm like, you're crazy. But she was obsessed. I was like her pretty. She was like, you're my pretty baby doll girl. Like, I want to make you so pretty. So, like, I was like her dress up. Like, she used to play dress up with me. And I let her have it because, just to go back, my mom was pregnant and she was 19. She was killed in a car accident.
Okay.
So my grandmother raised me. That was her daughter.
Yeah.
So she was very obsessed with me in a healthy way.
Yeah.
She loved me. So like I let her have that. But in my other closet, I got my jersey, I got my sneakers, my Nikes.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like all that, my American Eagle. You know, we was rocking American Eagle. And the other closet was like, oh, this is the church room.
Sunday come around, let me just go to that room because I know where I gotta go.
Ain't no question about it. Like I'm getting up, she's at the iron, she's ironing out my dress. Like, where your stockings at?
Now, was that something like as you become, or like when did you start to question your sexuality? Like how early in life was that the question?
14.
14
happened in high school. Saw a girl walk by and I just kept looking and I was like,
it's like, damn, I ain't feel this before.
I was like, why am I keep looking at her? That's weird.
And how is that? So like, as you starting to see like, oh shit, I'm trying to see what that, you know what I'm saying? I'm trying to see what that be like what is the first response in your head? Because like you said, growing up in the church, and tell me if I'm wrong, please, you're not seeing people question their sexuality. Like people aren't flamboyant out in the open, and or people aren't verbally just talking about, hey, I'm questioning my sexuality.
Absolutely.
So like when you started to first feel this moment, it's like, I keep staring at her like, what is this? Why is this? Did you have someone to talk to? Did you have YouTube, social media? Like what was that process of understanding what was going on?
After that thought of seeing her, I was terrified. And then I think the next day I broke down crying on the bus because I was literally terrified.
Yeah.
I was shaking. I was like, oh my God, what is this? I think being around my bigger cousin who was gay.
Okay.
She kind of, walked me through the process. Like, it's okay.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I'm saying? You need to dress like this. Like, giving me, like, the gay 101. So I went, so I went through that. And that kind of helped me to get through it. I still was hiding, though.
Yeah.
But I was able to be more open at school. but I was still hiding.
So
Like,
yeah, well, it was still like back. So like, you weren't like wearing a dress at school, getting off the bus, and then putting like your jersey on or nothing,
no.
right? Like,
When I started driving, that's when I really was like, oh, I'm
Yeah.
really about to finesse this. Like, I would go out, leave the house looking feminine, and I'm getting in the car and I go change. And I'm like, and I'm braiding my hair. I'm putting Omarion braids in.
yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So I could be fly for the girls. So it was switching day and night.
What did that feel like to you to know that this is something, or because in your mind at this moment, this is what you think you have to do. So like, how does that feel, like knowing that this is who I am, and obviously the more your cousins is giving you the tips, the one-on-one guides, and the more you're feeling confident in, hey, I'm gay and I like that shit. I like her and I like her and I like, you know what I'm saying? Like, as you're going through this, like, how does it feel to continue to have to take the mask on, put it on, like to continue to leave the house dressing all feminine and things and then having to change? Like, was that something that, did you gain resentment? Did you gain anger? Like, what were the emotions were you, as you going through having to do this on a day in and day out basis?
It just was my duality.
You were able to. It was.
Yeah, it became normal in a sick way. And I think a lot of it subconsciously also come from me being in a black ass household and going to a white school.
The high school was white?
So yeah, so I'm in a day and night already naturally,
yeah.
and I'm being around racist white kids. I'm navigating that. I'm the token black girl. Like I said, I was the popular girl, senior class president in a white school. A black woman. They couldn't stand me. Like, it was another guy that went against me. His name was Jared. I'll never forget his name. Because he was a hater.
Watching this too.
He did not want me to win. He was like, I'm gonna be senior class president.
Is Jared white?
Of course.
Okay, yeah, just making sure.
You know,
With a name like
everybody, he was like, everybody gonna vote for me. He went all out. He had a campaign at school, pulling up, you know, with his picture on his car. Like, it was really like a political debate in high school. So when, you know, the news came on and they announced it over intercom, and they were like, our senior class president will be. And he was like, Cece. And I was like, oh my God, what is happening?
Yeah.
It was very terrifying because I knew that they didn't want me in that position, but I stood in that position. You know, and I claimed it. So that right there in itself had already mentally trained me about the whole black and white. So it was like I just transferred that energy to my sexuality from the dark, you know, the duality. So
awesome. So then now, so if you're going through this and, you know, your cousin helped you out, she gave you the rule book, right? She teach you how to do this. And now you get to UNCG. Now you ain't got grandma right here. She ain't making sure you leave the house feminine. Right. And now you see this choir, the choir director, and you see all these things, and you've already began to peel the mask off permanently. Now you're here and you've been exposed to so much more. So now everything is expanding, right? So now you're able to be who you are. So now through this process of going through UNCG and becoming who you are now, or when was a point in your life where you can really say, like, everywhere I go, whoever I talk to, this is who I am, right? You mentioned how you begin to isolate from your family because I really want to keep this mask off, and I feel like I got to keep it on around y'all, so I'm just going to stay away from y'all. What point in life or what happened so where you were able to be comfortable to keep that mask off around family or just around anybody you weren't necessarily comfortable doing it with?
I moved in with my girlfriend, and it was a serious relationship, and it was my first ever serious relationship, and I didn't know what to do. Like, I mean, we got checking accounts together, like we're planning things out, and we went through a bad breakup, and to the point where I had to move out. You know, we moved out of the apartment, and I was just so depressed. Till I went to my father and my aunt, and I told him, I was like, oh my God, I'm so upset. They're like, what's wrong? I was like, my girlfriend, she broke up with me. And they're like, your girlfriend?
Because at this point, they didn't know.
No, they didn't know.
Do you think like they
knew?
Knew and didn't know?
That's what my aunt, she told me. And my aunt is evangelist.
Okay.
I'm coming to her, she's evangelist. But at the same time, I love my aunt. She's the most transparent person. So I just felt like coming to her. And I was just like, oh, she was like, I already knew that. And I was like, how did you know that? She was like, you stayed over one night and like you had boxers on.
I was like, where are your panties at?
Right. And it's crazy. I don't even wear boxers anymore, but I was just, you know, in that thing. She was like, yeah, I was like, my niece is yeah. So that was and then she was like, I love you. I still love you. Like, whatever. You know my beliefs, but I'm here for
Yeah,
you.
and we're individual. Like you
Right.
have your individual. You're an individual, and I am. So
Right. And that's when I was to like, oh, God,
thank you.
I finally got told somebody in the family. I'm good. I ain't got to tell nobody else in the family.
Somebody know.
Right. That's all that counts.
So it's like once that happened, was that like that trigger to like I don't know if you ever seen The Mask with Jim Carrey or anything like that, and like
I love Jim Carrey.
yeah, towards the end of the movie, like the mask wouldn't come off because he was wearing it so much.
Right.
Right. So was that a moment of just like, yes,
Yes.
I can take this off. I'm breaking
Yes.
free. I can wear my boxes. I can wear my jerseys. I can do whatever I need to do.
Yes.
And how did that feel to get like to have that fulfilling moment? Now I don't have to hide anymore. I don't have to show this mask anymore. Like, what were the emotions that you were feeling, or what were the actions that took place after that?
It was so overwhelming. Even telling my dad, I was really nervous to tell my dad. And when I told him and I was crying, he just broke down crying too.
Yeah.
He was like, man, I love you, man. You good, dog. You know you my daughter, bro. I don't care
You a
about
homie
none of
now,
that
look.
shit, bro. Like, he really... I was like, okay.
I ain't never seen this before. Yeah.
Seriously, but going through that, especially my dad's my number one fan. Like, so I don't know why I was scared to tell him, but I think my grandma was just so like, she just put fear in me, like for real. So, but yeah, it was a relief. I be myself when I go home. Like, I was on myself for real. Like, okay, since I'm telling y'all that, well, I smoke weed too. What's up?
She said, well, I'll tell you everything. Look, you
I
going to
was
accept me for
I'm
you.
grown. I'm grown. This is me. You got to get all of me.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's what it was.
And how was it for them to like see the real Cyanca now going back home? And obviously you got your close family, you got extended family that you ain't really got to tell that nothing about, but they'll end up seeing you and start to see the change. How was their reaction to you? And then based on their reaction, how did that make you feel inside?
It made me feel valued. It made me feel wanted, for sure.
So before any of this, was it I know you said the fear your grandma put you in. I can relate because grandmas are scary, right? You feel me? Grandmas are scary, and for me, my mother's scary as well. And I've always had that just fear the unknown. So like I'll either hide it or I'll take whatever it is. Like I'll take it on in order for me not to get punished or yelled at, or just from whatever I'm thinking is going to happen, because most of the time it's assumptions. Right. One of the rules in the 4 agreements is don't make assumptions because you don't know the real. So going home and you seeing that she is now open to it, and now you're feeling a sense of relief, and you're feeling like I can be myself. Going into life, how did that change the trajectory of just like who you were? Now that the closest people to you, like you said, your father, this is my backbone, like my number one fan. Now he's hugging me like, yeah. I'm thankful. I'm glad. Thank you for coming. You know what I'm saying? Coming out and everything. How did that encourage you throughout life in general? Yeah.
It helped me become an artist. It really empowered me in many ways that I didn't even know. Because it was like, wow, I've been living in the dark for so long. Even with me playing the drums, like, I'm in the background.
Yeah.
It's comfortable. Like, but my grandmother's like, you can sing like an angel. You need to be in the front. She allowed me to play instruments, but she really wasn't. She wasn't really with it. Like, I would go play drum service. She was like, okay, the compromise is you got to sing one song and you can play service. I was like, all right, bet. But, yeah, it really made me stronger as a black woman to the point where I felt like invincible, that I can do anything. So that's when I was like, all right, I'm done being in the background. I'm about to be on stage. I'm about to be front center.
Yeah.
And that included me singing. So I even transitioned in the choir. I started in the choir playing keys because I was just so like, I'm a background. And then the choir director was like, he heard me singing one day. He was like, oh, no, you about to start leading songs now. And the choir, it was like,
this is the college choir.
yeah, it's 100, 200 people in the choir. And we traveling all over, like, the world, honestly. We done went to different states, competing with other gospel choirs at colleges and stuff. So going through that, kind of helped me like transition. Like I was like, all right, I want to be in the front now.
So the
yeah.
confidence to be yourself in your sexuality gave you the confidence to be yourself in the world. Now, I know me personally, I've listened to your music. That's how I first found out about you. And I think the very first time was at the Do-Rag Fest, either last year or the year before you performed. And I said the same thing your grandma said. I said, who is this? Right? Because, Do-Rag Fest, we were partying, we listening, we got a couple people on and off. But then, it was a moment of stopping. Like, you got to listen to this.
Right.
Because, this is good.
Right.
And now you have this confidence in, I'm Cyanca. Right?
Yes.
I'm no longer, choir number 327 playing the piano.
Yeah.
I'm going to be who I am. And this encouraged your music career. So now let's kind of dive into the music career and see how me being able to open up one avenue in my life, which is my sexuality, and take this mask off, opened up everything in my life. Because what you began to do was walk in your true purpose.
Right.
Sexuality is a part of your purpose because someone's seeing you open, just like you saw the choir director. Someone's seeing you, and that's a part of you being your purpose.
Right.
And a part of your purpose is music. So now you're open up on this side, and now it's giving you the confidence to really be and do who you are. And like you said, be invincible. How did this start to trickle into the music? And let's begin kind of talking about the transition from, choir director to now, saying,
Right.
who you are.
So I majored in music in college, and then my family was like, "You sure you're a major in music? Why don't you do business or something? Like, you want to be a music teacher?" Because they didn't understand
Small
the process of music industry. It's a small town, like. They don't know how you get on the TV on that stage. Like, what? So I was like, okay. So I switched, listened to my family. I'm like, I'm going to be a business major. I remember sitting in microeconomics class one day, 300 people in there, and I just walked out. I was like, I can't do this. I'm not interested in this. What is he talking about? It sounds like Chinese up there.
Yeah.
And I'm coming from a small town. Like, I like intimacy. So I just stopped going to class to the point where I started flunking. Then I got suspended. And then I was so scared to tell my parents.
Hey, y'all, I'm gay, but I ain't going to tell them I'm failing.
No, dead ass. So
you're going to accept me for who I am, but you ain't going to accept them grades.
I said, here I go running again. Here I go avoiding. That avoiding thing was eating me up. And I'm like, okay, I'm about to go enroll to a different school. I went to Guilford Tech and got to classes.
And they didn't even know any of this was going on.
They knew, but I just lied. I was like, oh, I just want to, I'm going to do Guilford Tech. Like, UNCG ain't for me. No, but I went through that, and then I just went through a phase of, I don't know what I want to do.
Like many of us.
Yeah, I was like, I think I was around 25, 26, and I was just like, I think we go through that gray area in that time frame, like trying to discover who you are. So went to Guilford Tech, started flunking there. I'm like, now I got bad grades at UNC Greensboro and Guilford Tech. And I can't go back to UNC Greensboro until I get my grades up at Guilford Tech because it's going to transfer.
Yeah.
So I just stopped going to school. I was like, you know what? F it. Found me a little 9-to-5 job. Just started working. Me and my girlfriend moved in together.
Is this the same? This is the girlfriend that y'all. Hold on. This is after?
This is the same girlfriend, yeah.
Okay.
So we moved in together. When we broke up, like I said, I was going through depression. I moved in with one of my friends in Greensboro. His name is Marquis. He let me move in. He was like, you sleep on the couch? I was like, cool.
Shout out to Marquis.
Yeah, shout out to Marquis. So I slept on his couch with my little $20 in food stamps I was getting.
Damn, they denied me.
I was like, why y'all even prove me for this?
Oh, no, I'll take that now.
Yeah, milk and eggs for sure. Went through that, and then one day we were smoking, and he was like, yo, I had my keyboard. I was playing for a church too, so I've always played for churches. That was something that I just consistently did. I was playing for a church, so I had a keyboard. And he was like, "Oh, get your keyboard out the car, man. Let's just play." And I was like, "Okay." So I'm playing, whatever. He was like, if you could write for any artist, who would it be? And I was like, I would love to write for Erykah Badu. Like, I love Erykah Badu.
Yeah.
And he was like, if she was standing here right now, what would you produce? And that's when I made the track Badu. He was like, yo, this is so amazing. You should go record this. And I was like, record it where? I don't,
Record.
what does that mean?
So up to this point, you've never really, like, you never was an artist. You just always did
No,
church stuff,
just
choir
church.
stuff.
I've never had a thought in my mind to be an artist.
Okay.
Never.
Yeah.
So it's up to that night. So I was like, man, you tripping. I ain't about to be no artist.
Yeah.
What? So
I just started leading the choir. That's
right.
enough.
Right. I mean, let me,
like, hold on.
baby steps.
Yeah.
So I went to sleep that night. Well, I really couldn't sleep, and I was just wrestling. My spirit was just wrestling all night. I'm turning and tossing on that couch. And then it was like God was speaking to me. I woke up that morning, started looking up studios in Greensboro. I was like, I can't believe I'm doing this. I found the studio, Soul Lab Studios, and then I found this guy named LaFell. So I hit him up. I was like, yo, can I pull up? And I bought like an hour or two. It was like $20 an hour back then. I was like, yo, can I pull up and, play you some music? I had been making beats on the side for a long time, but I never told anybody. Like, it was like a secret. So I pulled up on him on my Mac computer. I played him some beats. And he was like, oh, my God, you're so amazing. He was like, what are you doing? I was like, I don't know. I'm just playing for church and I'm chilling. Like, I'm just making beats for fun. So he was like, you should start recording. And I was like, I can't afford a studio. He was like, you can come record in my crib for like $10 an hour.
Yeah.
You know
I
what I'm
need
saying?
something, but
It's a little closet set up, but, it's affordable. So I went to his house. I produced Badu from scratch. And he recorded me. I put it on SoundCloud. And it started getting a little buzz. And I'm like, wait, what's going on? Like, it's day 3. I got 5,000 plays on this track. What? He was like, man, let's make another song. I was like, all right. He was like, I'm going to send you some beats. He sent me a new phone, who this beat? Like the next day. And my eyes got so big. And I was like, what is this? And I sat on that beat for 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Just listen to it over and over again all day long. And then I was like, all right, I'm ready to record to it. And I went to his house, recorded a new phone in his closet, put it on SoundCloud, and it went crazy.
Yeah.
So he was like, you have to be an artist now.
Yeah, like you can't, like you put it out there. It's in the world, and it's like, I mean, you can, right? We have choices. You can take a step back and go back to the stage.
Right.
And something you said right before recording Badu is you couldn't sleep at night. And something I've experienced and a lot of people experience is that friction. And like you said, through that ages of 23, 28, 29, it's different for everybody.
Yeah.
You meet that point where it's like it's hard to get jobs after college, or if you didn't go to school, it's kind of hard to get a career, something you want to do. Before 23 is like you're fine working any job, right? Just getting a check. And then you get to a point in life where I want to feel something. I want to be something, right? Regardless of what that looks like to you. And now you're in bed and you're tossing and turning. And what I've learned through my short-lived life, I'm only 26, but what I've learned and through the guests been on the show and just life experiences, when you'll know when it's time to walk in your purpose, when you meet that friction. That friction is very important.
Yes.
Just like the isolation, right? I spoke about in one of my earlier episodes with Travis is like accidental has a negative connotation to it sometimes, and it could be seen as like accidental isolation. Oh, this is a bad thing. But no, like you're in your bed alone in your thoughts. That's that mental isolation. That's that moment where what the fuck am I about to do?
Yeah.
And that's that friction. That's that positive friction to where it's like you're really going to step into your purpose and you're going to be the biggest person you want to be. You're going to be invincible. You're going to be who you're meant to be. Or, like you said earlier, you're going to run away, right? You're going to acquire what you, and that's a choice we all have to make. So you had a choice when New Phone Who This came out, right? And it blew up. You had a choice and you made the choice to let's step into this. What was something that helped you make that choice? Like, obviously, you had this community around you now. You have a producer. He's looking out for you. You're staying on your friend's couch, and now this guy's giving you discounted studio. Like, you have these things that's boosting you, but what was inside that? Because you have to make this choice. He can tell you that you got to keep going all you want, but you have to make this decision. You have to pick up the tools. You have to do the work to be who you want to be. What was inside of you that said, let's do it?
I've always been a dog person in the inside. Like, I'm an athlete.
Yeah.
Like, I'm competitive. I want to be number one. I was MVP in high school. Like I said, all these achievements, senior class president.
DJ.
I've always subconsciously like I'm her, but I didn't know that I was already doing that. And I'm an Aries too.
Unfortunately, I don't know what that means.
We're number one. That's what it means. I'm just playing. But yeah, stepping into that. Yeah, I just after new phone and it went up, that was the confidence I need.
Yeah.
And it was like a switch, like, all right, you gotta be her now. Like the way you walk, the way you dress, your aura. So I made it my intentions to when I started to walk in a room when I said I'm an artist, I walked in a certain way. Like I walked in like, y'all gonna know who I am, but it's not even like no pride for ego. It's like confidence. So people would like start approaching me like, you look like you just somebody important or you do something. You're so unique, but I need to find out. And that's when I knew. I was like, oh yeah, I got that aura on me. And I started like, and I think me being a musician as well was also a comfortability for me because I've always been doing music. So it was like, all right, I was already performing and being trained in church. Like I was already on stage performing in front of big churches, leading songs at 7 years old. So it really wasn't that hard to transfer. It's just going from gospel to secular. Yeah.
And how was that transition? So for one, you had this mask on from your sexuality because of the church, right? Well, not simply because of the church, but the church was a big part of being like hiding who I am, right? Now you're leaving, you're open, your sexuality is there. Now it's time to really make music. Your whole life, you led choirs, you led all these things, but now we're moving into some different music. How are you able to, not necessarily take the mask off of that, but how are you able to like, was that something that was just like, I'm already here, like I could do this, this is something simple to do, or was that something you kind of had to internally work through as well? Like, are they going to accept this me? Are they going to accept the music I'm putting out? Is that something you had to work through as well?
No,
that was just something that like, hey, this is what I want to rap about, and then knowing but doing. Yeah,
because I mean, my family already looked at me as super talented.
Yeah,
like they already saw that I was a star. Mm-hmm. So when they found out, they were like, "Oh, we here, we rooting for you." My family be at my shows, like my dad be at all my shows. He can, like they're super supportive. So that what kind of made it easier too. It's like even when I go home, they be like, "Oh, it's Cyanca walking in." I'm like, because they always, no more. Yeah, they used to call me Cece. They still do. And my other nicknames, my childhood nicknames, but yeah, it was super easy to transition.
That's good. Towards the end of the show, I always give that space to create actionable steps for people. Because people can come read books, watch stories, listen to you, all they want, but until they have something to take away so they can actually use for themselves, it's like, what are we here for, right? And my platform is to give people these actionable steps. Like, I'm not just here to tell you stories. Stories are cool. Your story is amazing. But we're here to help guide people through these isolations. So with that, you've already mentioned some of them throughout your story, but what are some tools, right, that helped you throughout these isolations? Like, so you already kind of mentioned some of them, but now let's give the guests these actionable steps that, hey, when you're going through something similar or something completely different, here's something that you can pick up and start to work on throughout yourself.
For me, I think a lot of tools, it's a lot of factors that go into that. Community, friends. My friends are like my family. So I lean heavily on my friends and my community. I try to do outside activities. I think that's very helpful. I was in a therapy session one time, and my therapist told me, he's like, you got to do your way out of depression. You can't just, you got to do it. I was like, what does that mean? He was like, go do something, go zip line. Go run through the forest, while it's raining. Like, just do something abnormal. You into stuff like that?
Yeah, so I'm a yogi. I teach. So if y'all don't know, I'm a yoga instructor. So if you want to come to a class, if you want to scan that QR code, you can. You know what I'm saying? I can teach you some real good yoga. But yeah, so I'm a yogi. I go hiking. When I need space, when I need separation, I'm going to the mountains. Yeah, I'm going hiking.
Love hiking.
I oftentimes struggle with self-worth and believing in my community. Prime example here today right now is a college friend. Recently he came on the team to help with some graphics. He made this great graphic for me, and he lives in Greenville, South Carolina. He had no intentions of coming today, and he, you know, we were on the phone. I'm sending him some last minute edits. I'm trying to get some things in, and he was like, "Yo, bro, you need me to come up there?" And you can ask him. He's back there actually, but you can ask him like, I'm like, nah, I don't want you to do that. I don't want you to, you know what I'm saying? Because I'm afraid, and I don't want to use people. I have volunteers here who help me with all these things, and that's something I struggle with to even ask them. Like when I asked them, they said yes. That's that. They're here to help me, and I struggle with believing in that community that I have, and like being able to see things like this, people showing up, people in the guests to show up and support me and support the brand and support you. It just helps, and it lets me know that like community is real. And it helps you get through a lot of things, right? Yes. I'm not up here hosting this platform because I'm perfect and now I'm just here to share the good news, right? Yeah. I struggle with all these isolations as well. Me and you having this conversation is therapeutic for me as well. I'm here to learn from your story as well. Yeah. So being able to have that community is big, and like being able to have that confidence to use that community.
For me also, I like to serve others. That's another thing that helps me. I think they said scientifically, like, you serving others gives you more joy than doing for yourself. And I grew up a missionary. Yeah. My grandmother, I watched her go to people who could not get to church, who was sick, and she would go wash their clothes. Yeah. She would go wash their actual body, cook for them, vacuum the floor, and I'd just be sitting there like a little 7-year-old. I'm like, what is going on? Why are you doing this? What, you don't get paid after that? What's going on? And that right there, to the point where I started to just get up and doing it. Like I got up one time and started folding clothes, or things like that, and it felt good. I was like, oh my God, this feels so good.
And that's that true joy that many people confuse with happiness. Yes. A lot of people don't know that happiness and joy are two different things. Happiness you can get from getting paid. Happiness you can get from having 1 million people in your crowd while you performing the show. Happiness is me having all these people show up for me, and that's good. But happiness fades away. Happiness goes ups and down. Happiness is an emotion. It's not going to always be there, unfortunately.
No, life is not fair. And I've been reading a lot lately. I read something that said, whether you're privileged or disadvantaged, everyone is naturally predisposed to psychological suffering. So we all are going through some things. And that kind of helps me understand, like, wow, like, life is not fair. Like, you could be rich and be unhappy. You can be poor and unhappy.
Yes. So, and finding that pure joy in, I'm like you, like, I find that pure joy in serving and helping people. That's why I have this platform, like, so I can, like, when I see people say, like, hey, man, that really helped. When I see people's like, I like what you do, or what you did helped me, or even if it's nothing I did at all, like, people come in, congratulate me, or are happy that you're on the show to do something. I don't even have to directly do it, but seeing people be able to maneuver throughout, their isolations and get out of those things, because everyone deals with them. And that's why I have people from all walks of life on the show, because there's not one demographic that deals with something more than the other. Everyone of all walks of life deals with these moments. And that's where I get my joy from. My true joy is so that everybody has some type of something that they can understand and get throughout. To wrap up the show, right, is there any other tools or anything that you wanted to mention throughout that?
I think my biggest tool is just serving others. That's one of my biggest tools.
Definitely.
Yeah. There's a thin line between that. I get it. That's why you gotta have the kind of discernment to kind of, know what and hear from God. And then sometimes, like, I mean, even Kanye West said this. He was like, if you don't want to be used, you're useless. Yeah. So, I think discernment kind of helps with that. Just like praying about it. Me and my friends been talking about that. Like, we got to pray more. We got to go to God more, because listen to others. Things can get very jaded. And then they could be interrupting what God already divined to happen. So I think, that relationship with God, just having that discernment, that gut feeling, that's your discernment, that's your soul talking to you, kind of helps you. Yeah.
Get your next.
Do you feel like Charlotte has been beneficial? Would you want to go somewhere else? Would
God. The ultimate big question. I moved to Charlotte for my job. I got a job promotion. I was living in Winston-Salem and Greensboro. You know that thing, you after college, you stay in the same city for a little bit. I was like, I get out of Greensboro. Everybody done left. So I got a job promotion, moved to Charlotte. During that time, I had just put out New Phone to Badu. And my best friend, who's from Charlotte, Megan, she was like, I'm about to plug you with everybody. Like, oh, that's my city. So she plugged me with Luke West. And Luke West showed love. Elevator J, Denero Farrar, that's my brother, love him. And the community was strong. Like, people was pouring into me. And it kind of gave me the confidence. I had a community, like, outside of just church. Mm-hmm. And I love being here, and I still do love being here. Is there a lot of resources here? Of course not. But we're in a time of technology where you don't have to move to do things. Like, you can literally just blow up off of your iPhone. Yeah. People see that on TikTok every day. But I do know it's important to travel. A lot of people ask me, like, how did you blow up, or get where you are from your music? I travel. I went to LA a lot. I go there. I was just in Atlanta last week working with a producer who's produced for Summer Walker. Like, yeah, we can, do virtual, but that in person, like, it means so much more.
Especially with music.
Yeah. So, and I want to build that genuine connection. So I love Charlotte. I don't think I have to move, but if it gets to that point, I will, but I'm always going to come back home. Like, I'm going to retire here.
That's amazing. I love Charlotte. Like, I just moved here 3 years ago, and that's one of the biggest things. Like, a lot of people I've met here started from the gym, and then from there, like, I've been able to meet. So, like, being able to build that community is very important to just, like, everybody here today is from a community I was able to build. So, like, that's really important. So,
because, I think look at the baby, and the baby was going crazy in Charlotte. Like, I don't know if anybody know, but that nigga had, every time I go to a gas station, I'm like, kicking flyers out of the way. I'm like, I keep saying this baby with a pamper on this flyer. Who is this? Like, flooding Charlotte. And then he went to South by Southwest in a pamper. And that kind of made a whole bunch of controversy. Because ain't nothing like home.
In a
you
community.
Can go live you can go in LA, Atlanta, but ain't nothing like home.
Yeah.
So.
I got you. And you had a question?
No. I thought God hated me. I went through that phase too. Like, I was like, nah, you hate me. But he really didn't, though. But I think with the outside and the pressure of, are you going to hell, or this and that, like, all that type of conversation made me kind of lose my faith in God. But yeah, I got back to it and I restored it, eventually. Because he just never left me. Like, he's always covered me. He's always protected me. He speaks to me. So, yeah.
At the end of each show, I always like to give the guests just that opportunity, especially when they're entrepreneurs or musicians, to promote whatever they have going, social media, anything like that, so everybody around here can continue to follow your story. So, yeah, anything you want to promote, share, Instagram, Twitters, all that stuff.
Yes, you can follow me on Instagram. Any platform is cyanca.is. Yeah, I got some new music I'm about to drop. I got a new single I dropped earlier this year called My Bad. It's really dope. Check that out. But yeah.
Yeah, thank you so much for coming on and being a part of something historical, being a part of the very first live show. I really appreciate you giving me your time, giving me this space, and having these vulnerable conversations with me for the guests. So I just want to thank you and appreciate you all.